Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our latest Chamber podcast. In this episode, we're talking about the development of hydrogen-powered technology and the work that Chamber member FAUN Zoeller is undertaking in this space, and what that means for the wider region. So I'm Raj Kandola, Head of Policy at the Chamber, and I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Hyde, who's a CEO of FAUN Zoeller. So Simon, let's start with the basics then. Can you tell us a bit more about your company and what it specialises in?
Yeah, sure. FAUN Zoeller UK, we're part of the Ecotech Group, which is a subdivision of a German industrial family, Kirchhoff, 3 billion turnover, 13,500 employees, 4 divisions: automotive, special tooling, special vehicles, and the Ecotech division, which is where I sit. And we are suppliers of road sweepers and mechanical refuse collection vehicles to the local authorities and waste structure across Europe. So we produce about 8,500 units a year.
Brilliant. And how long have you had a presence in the UK for?
Zoeller Waste Systems was set up in 1984 and FAUN came over in 1986. But I've been running FZ UK since, well, I joined in June 2000, so it's a happy birthday for me this year. But yeah, since the late 80s.
Fantastic. And how would you say the organisation has developed and changed over that time?
Oh, hugely. I mean, in 1986, it was lots of little businesses, and through acquisition in the last 15 years, we've developed into a 1 billion turnover company within the group. And I think it's largely driven by both acquisition and a large amount of investment, particularly in the early 2000s for innovation and technology.
That's great to hear. So you mentioned that investment in innovation and technology then. So what specific areas or refer to them as FZ, did they specialise in, and where were they ahead of the curve on that front?
Well, I was appointed on the May board in 2004, and we had the discussions on decarbonisation way back then. And in 2009, we developed a diesel electric vehicle. And I'm very proud and pleased to say that they're actually still working in Germany. So it's been a long development on the decarbonisation, and we've transitionalised now, and obviously we're working towards battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell powered trucks.
That's really interesting. So I mean, obviously, I'm just fascinated to hear that, because like you said, at that time, thinking about the kind of diesel trucks and thinking about the development of the sustainability agenda probably wasn't as high on people's priorities list as it is now. So back then, what kind of made FZ take that position, would you say?
Well, it's saddened to say that the Germans have got more visibility in this particular arena, and obviously the group is very close to the automotive sector, who were always then talking about decarbonisation and electrification. So we were really ahead of the curve in that respect. So we were following the trends from the automotive sector. And the view at Ecotech Group was, that's not going to go away. That's going to come to our particular segment of the business. So we just rolled up our sleeves and start thinking about what are we going to do to combat that change, because it is coming.
No, fantastic. And how has that sustainability agenda, would you say, developed over the last few years? And thinking about hydrogen-powered technology and what this means for the sustainability agenda.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, the green ticketing group is huge. Not only with the products that we sell, but also the way we run our business, and obviously the way we manufacture our products. I mean, at FZ UK, we've, for example, during COVID, we installed all battery electric charging points. We did automatic lighting. We've gone into a paperless office, and we're on this crusade of not only with the product, but also the way we run the business. But in terms of the product performance, it's huge. It's huge in terms of the sustainability and the positive impact on the air that we breathe within the cities. And that's why I'm actively involved in the Westminster Clean Air Commission as well, because that's key for us as a business.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about that commission and what it specialises in and your role in it?
Well, our role is very clear. We take it very seriously in how we translate that demand into the product that we produce. So, if you like, we're looking at all types of emissions from the vehicles for our refuse collection vehicles, but also our road sweepers. So we've got really tight controls on emissions on the road sweepers. And of course, those products, when they go into the clean air zone, will contribute to taking the pollution down and the particulates that can produce ill health. So it's very, very important to us. It's important that we use technology to hit these challenges, and that's what we do as a business. And the German family is a bunch of industrialists, they're engineers, I'm an engineer, so we can see the importance of introducing that technology and trying to translate it from political aspirations to actually actions, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, you mentioned that kind of transition. What would you say have been some of the challenges that you faced in adopting this technology and trying to, spread its use across the country and in different parts of Europe?
That's a really good question, Raj. I think the biggest challenge, I've referred to it internally as well, is the public and the clients, to convince them that this is the right way. I, for one, probably was a little bit skeptical about the climate change, the impact, but since COVID, when no one was driving around, clearly, without question, the air we breathe locally. I mean, I'm fortunate to live in the country, so it's great. But the pictures you saw of rivers and streams and seas and the picture of Venice, it's absolutely clear that what we're doing is pumping nasty stuff into the environment, and that's what really hit us, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because I think even with, and we'll come on to talk about the Birmingham Clean Air Zone shortly, but statistics show that whilst obviously traffic levels dropped significantly throughout last summer, when the first lockdown was announced, by September, traffic levels in central Birmingham were back to 90% to where they were pre-pandemic, which just shows, again, some of the systemic issues we have around congestion and obviously air pollution related to that. Now, I've touched upon the Birmingham Clean Air Zone, which, as we know, went live in June of this year. But in terms of the work that FZ is doing, how does that, would you say, relate to the wider objectives that Birmingham City Council have around reducing air pollution levels by, for example, introducing a clean air zone?
Well, first of all, I'd like to applaud the government for introducing those clean air zones, because it forces the issue. We've been talking about it for a long time, and I do agree that changing legislation and stuff like that does force manufacturers and producers like us to comply, and I think it's vital. Refuse trucks and buses are probably the biggest polluters in any city because of the frequency and the inefficiencies of them. So I think, a huge city like Birmingham, with the amount of refuse trucks, road sweepers and buses they have, clearly, if they decarbonise those, it's going to have a huge positive impact on the people's health of the city. And I think that's superb. And the sooner we can do that, the better. I think we've now got to move from, we've all agreed it's got to happen, let's just get on and do it, and being an engineer and a chief exec, that attitude has carried me well so far. So I'm ready to go.
That's fantastic. I mean, when we talk about the development of hydrogen-powered technology, I mean, what do you foresee as some of the challenges on the horizon in terms of the adoption of this technology?
Oh, there's several threads to that. I think there's this cost. Everyone talks about the cost, the infrastructure, what is the right technology. I mean, as a company, although we've developed a hydrogen fuel cell, we do acknowledge that we have to be technologically agnostic, which we are. We are working with other chassis manufacturers purely on battery, because with smaller duty cycles, then the battery is applicable, but infrastructure there is an issue. The longer, bigger duty cycle vehicles, we think the hydrogen fuel cell is an application, but again, the infrastructure, the big debate about who produces hydrogen, the chicken and egg story, who goes first. But I'm really pleased to see that there are companies coming into the market that can help initiate that, kickstart it, if you like, getting the product in. And we have to acknowledge that in early days, it's going to be costly. And like any emerging economy and emerging technology, costs will go down. People will become more understanding of what it is, and it will become the norm. But we're a few years off that.
That's a really good point, and I think obviously with the developments from the pandemic and some of the serious hardships that a number of firms have faced, particularly SMEs who are struggling to stay afloat right now and are facing severe cash pressures. I mean, what would your advice be to those SMEs that perhaps haven't thought about embarking on that net zero journey and how you think they can start to become more involved in this particular agenda? Because as you said, it's going to become more and more apparent over the next few years.
Yeah, Raj, it's not going away, and we took that view on the 23rd of March when the lockdown was announced. You know, we focused very much as a management team as what we could do rather than what we couldn't do, and we tried to knit that together with the green economy, because that's not going away. On the contrary, I think it's going to be a good, if the government invests wisely, then I think we've got a huge opportunity to, what's the phrase, build back better or build back greener. And I think that's right. But I think we've got to be careful and wise with our investments to make sure that we don't panic, that we use data to drive the selection of the right energy vector, if you like. But most definitely, I would encourage a lot of SMEs to focus on what they could do rather than what they couldn't do, because this isn't going away. It's here to stay.
No, that's a really important point. You mentioned the oft-used phrase "build back better," thinking about an economic recovery post-pandemic, which is underpinned by sustainable principles, and a big element of that, of course, is retraining, but also hiring young people in this emerging field. I mean, what are your thoughts on those particular points?
Very, very strong, Raj. I mean, you know, I do a lot of work in the skills sector. I chair boards. I sit on the Kidderminster College board. And in fact, last night we were talking about the new development there for a new sustainable construction and electric automotive facility. And I presented to some customers this week, and I said that skills was absolutely a top priority. You know, we're now bringing a vehicle over, and I've just been on a meeting with the engineers at Group talking about what skills we need to adopt to make sure that the transition is smooth, safe, and positive. And again, once again, I think if we invest wisely, it's absolutely of paramount importance that we invest in the young people and all generations to make sure that we get the right skills for this transition. That's vital, major part.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, look, Simon, it's been really fascinating, obviously, catching up and talking about this agenda this morning. But I mean, before we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's very clear as a business, we feel we've got a product. We feel that we're making progress with the infrastructure, slow progress with the clients because it's a colossal change for them, which I completely understand. And I think, not that I don't expect the government to give out handouts. On the contrary, that's not what their job is. But I think from our perspective, we'd like to see some kind of initiative of investment just to get the thing going. So we can prove the point, prove its success, because as a business, we will dedicate all our resource and energies to making sure that this is happening. And we work with the local authorities in a very collaborative way, in a true partnership. You know, we're not here to just sell a truck and run away. You know, we want to work with them over a 2-3 period to make sure that we're holding each other's hand through that transition. But we need a little bit of a kickstart of some funding. That would be good.